And hello again, and welcome to Inside Greeley, as we have an opportunity to talk about a discussion that's ongoing in recent vintage concerning development in the city of Greeley, the topic oil and gas drilling. And joining me is Brad Mueller. Brad is the Community Development Director for the city of Greeley. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Brad, give us a little background as to the history and the involvement of the city of Greeley. How long has this kind of been on the table, so to speak?
Absolutely. So oil and gas has actually been in the city limits for over 30 years. It's not particularly new. It certainly has increased in activity in the last 3 or 4 years, or at least become more aware for many people as development in the region has picked up. But we actually have a long history of working through that, including the point at which Greeley attempted at one point in the late 80s to ban oil and gas within the city limits. We learned through a Colorado Supreme Court case that was resolved in 1992 that violated private property rights, and ever since then we've been working to merge those two interests together and make sure that they can live in harmony. And of course that's a challenge to do, but it's also an important right to recognize.
And one of the nuances of this whole topic, of course, is the mineral rights, the oil rights, the rights to what lies underground. And how does that mesh with what goes on in drilling, and how do you try to correlate and capture all of the rights of people?
Well, you know, it begins with understanding a little bit about how the drilling process works, and that's a very complicated topic that obviously goes beyond the time we have right now, but it's important for folks to probably understand that it begins with the actual drilling process where the single hole is dug. But after that, there's a series of pipes that go in and a series of casings by cement that encase the whole pipe into the ground. And it's really at that point that the process known as hydraulic fracturing or fracking takes place. Once that pipe is deep underground, at the very end of it is the possibility of breaking holes into the pipe and then doing explosions that perforate out into the oil and gas shale and then create a passageway for that oil and gas to come up. And then at the surface, once everything's drilled and completed, what you'll find is that there is a single pumping station. A lot of what we associate with the facility, though, are actually what are called separators, which separate the oil and the naturally occurring water that's in the ground and the naturally occurring natural gas that's in the ground, separating those out and then putting them in tanks. And so it's the tanks and the separators that we often associate with the site.
Drilling projects, and I know I don't need to tell you, can be divisive and volatile in nature, and my question amid that is who regulates what, who is empowered to do what when it comes to individual projects, and how do you sort that out? I know it's probably a topic that could be addressed over a long number of minutes, but in brief anyway.
Sure. Well, just like the topic is complex, the question of who regulates it's complex as well. And there's a whole host of industries that are involved in that, agencies such as the state, the federal government, and then us at the local level. The main players in local development are the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission. They issue the permit for the actual drilling right to access those mineral rights. We do know, though, through that Supreme Court case that I mentioned, that there is room for local control as well. And so we're able to manage and mitigate the development of oil and gas through our larger land use regulations.
So there's a tier of responsibilities, I guess, if that's a applicable word.
That's a good way to describe it. And so we as the city take advantage of that tier of responsibilities or opportunities to the very best of our abilities. And some of those things that we work on are mitigating issues such as traffic, the visual impacts. We've got tools such as landscaping and berming and distance that we can manage, stormwater and noise and a few other things like that that really happen on the surface. And so part of our challenge is really merging those types of efforts with what the state is doing in ensuring the property rights of those mineral owners.
Okay, a little bit more about where people can go for additional information and what can they do if they have concerns, Brad?
Well, we've tried to consolidate all that into a single website here at Greeley. That website is www.greeleygov.com/oil and gas. And at that site, you'll find both resources about how drilling is done, as well as the regulatory process, as well as hot links to the state, including their new complaint hotline. So we invite people to see that. There's an awful lot of information, and we're always happy to answer questions in person.
Well, that's kind of a pamphlet of information when probably it deserves a textbook. But anyway, still some valuable information. We appreciate your time and the information that you share on that topic.
Thank you for your time. We're always happy to tell more.
All right. Brad Mueller, again, who is the Community Development Director for the City of Greeley, our guest on Inside Greeley.